Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today with a question that might induce a little bit of anxiety, so bear with me.
Okay, I'm ready.
If I asked you to draw your career right now, literally, take a pen and draw the shape of your professional life on a napkin, what would it look like?
Wow. That is a terrifying question for a Tuesday.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. My first instinct is just like a scribble, a chaotic mess.
See, that's an honest answer, because I think for most of us, the instinct, the thing we think we're supposed to draw is a line.
A straight line.
A straight diagonal line, hopefully going up and to the right like a good stock chart, you
Huh.
know? You start at the bottom, you climb the ladder, you get the gold watch, and then you retire.
The classic corporate ladder. It's basically the geometry of the American dream, right?
Exactly. But we've got a stack of research here today that suggests that the line is actually, well, it's a lie.
Or at the very least, a relic.
A relic, that's a better word. We are looking at materials on career development that argue most of us are trying to navigate this incredibly complex, multidimensional maze using a map from 1975. It doesn't work.
No, it's like trying to run the latest operating system on a floppy disk.
Yes.
It just doesn't compute anymore. The hardware of the world, of the economy, has fundamentally changed. But our software for navigating it, our mental model of what a career should look like, is stubbornly outdated.
So today we are tearing down that ladder. We're going to talk about why your career might actually be a spiral or a circle or even, like you said, a chaotic series of islands.
And how that might be okay.
And how that might actually be a good thing. We're going to look at the new toolkit, specifically how AI is fundamentally changing the equity of job hunting. And we're going to talk about a concept called quiet ambition that is absolutely freaking out corporate HR departments right now.
It is. And it's a massive topic. I mean, frankly, it's the one thing that consumes about a third of our adult lives, yet we treat it with less strategic planning than we do our grocery lists.
That is so true.
We stumble into jobs, we stumble out of them, and we rarely stop to look at the architecture of the whole thing, the why behind it all.
So let's get into the machine. We need to start with some definitions because, you know, career development sounds like something you sleep through during employee onboarding.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds like a brochure you throw away.
Right. But the source material defines it in a way that's actually kind of heavy.
It is heavy.
Yeah.
And it's technical, so we need to strip away the corporate buzzwords for a second.
Please.
The technical definition we're working with is that career development is the total encompassment of an individual's work-related experiences leading up to a specific role.
Okay, so everything that got you here.
Everything.
Yeah.
But here is the kicker, and this is the part that really matters. It's defined as the decision-making process for long-term learning to align personal needs with advancement opportunities.
Aligning personal needs. That's the friction point right there, isn't it?
That's everything.
Because usually my personal need is to nap, and the advancement opportunity requires me to be, you know, very much awake.
That is the eternal struggle.
Well,
But seriously, the sources highlight this fundamental duality. On one side, you have the individual journey.
yeah, it's you.
That's you. That's your psychological needs, your desire for meaning, your need to pay rent, your ego, your identity, all of it. On the other side, you have the organizational process,
The machine.
the machine.
Yeah.
The company needs productivity. They need human capital, which is just a terrible term, by the way, to fit into specific slots to generate value. And career development is effectively the negotiation zone between your soul and their spreadsheet.
I love that image, the negotiation between the soul and the spreadsheet. Because I think we all know that usually the spreadsheet wins.
Usually, yes. But that's because most people don't know how to negotiate. They don't. They don't even know they're in a negotiation.
Right, they think it's a gift.
They view the company as a benevolent parent that will just take care of them, rather than as a system with its own very specific requirements and objectives.
So let's give them the manual. The first thing that really stood out to me in the research is how the actual mechanism of entering this system has changed so dramatically.
You're talking about just getting a job.
Yeah, getting a job. The source material calls it the strategic management of career progression. But yeah, it's about getting hired.
Right. And if we look at the landscape 20, even just 10 years ago, the strategy was all about volume.
The spray and pray.
Exactly. You had one resume. It was a static document. You printed it on that nice, heavy cardstock, maybe confident beige, or a subtle ivory if you were feeling fancy.
Yeah, I remember the fancy paper.
And you mailed it or you emailed it to 500 people. You just hoped one of them stuck. You were broadcasting your existence into the void.
And today, what does that get you today?
Today, that is a recipe for absolute soul-crushing failure. The source material brings up a concept called resume tailoring. Now, this isn't new. Advice career counselors have said, tailor your resume for decades.
Sure, make sure you use their name.
Right, basic stuff. But the depth and the necessity of tailoring required now has changed completely. It's not just tweaking a few words. Tailoring now means fundamentally readapting the resume to emphasize role-specific experiences and competencies for a single targeted position.
So let's play this out. If I'm applying for a project manager role, I'm going to highlight my scheduling skills, my budget management, all that stuff.
All the PMP buzzwords.
Right. But if I'm applying for, say, a product owner role at the very same company, I need to go back and rewrite my history. I highlight my vision and strategy skills, my user empathy, even if it's the exact same past experience.
Precisely. You are curating your history. You aren't lying. You are changing the lens through which your history is viewed. The goal isn't to show them everything you've ever done. It's to show them that you are the exact puzzle piece they are missing right now.
It's about relevance, not biography.
That's the perfect way to put it. But here's the problem, and I think every listener who's looked for a job recently knows this pain. That takes forever.
Oh, it's brutal.
To really, truly rewrite a resume for every single application, to analyze the job description, find the keywords, cross-reference your experience, rewrite your bullet points. It's a full-time job just to apply for jobs.
I've talked to people who say they can only manage 2 or 3 good applications a week.
And that's probably realistic if you're doing it right. It is exhaustion by design. Or at least it was.
It was.
This is where the research takes a very sharp turn into the present day, specifically referencing data from late 2025 regarding large language models, LLMs.
We're talking about AI,
Yeah.
ChatGPT, Claude, and there's a specific tool mentioned in the source called ResTune.
Yes. And I want to be clear here because there is a stigma. A lot of people feel like using AI to write a resume is cheating.
It feels inauthentic.
It does. They feel like if I don't write the words myself, am I really the candidate? It feels like plagiarism of the self.
That's a good phrase for it, yeah.
But the source material flips that narrative completely on its head. It argues that these tools are not about cheating. They're about equity. And this is a really crucial distinction.
Okay, walk me through that. How is a robot an equity tool? That sounds counterintuitive.
Think about the hidden job market. We all know that old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
The nepotism factor,
Yeah.
the old boys club.
Right. If you come from a wealthy background, or your parents were executives, or you went to an Ivy League school, you have access to what the source calls informal networks.
Mm-hmm.
You have an uncle who's a VP somewhere. You can look at your resume and say, hey, don't use that word. Use this buzzword instead. The hiring manager loves this specific type of phrasing. Oh, and don't say managed people. Say spearheaded cross-functional alignment.
That's insider trading for jobs. It's the secret code, the secret language.
It is, essentially. But what if you are a first-generation college graduate? What if you are an immigrant and English is your second language? What if you are pivoting into tech from a retail background and you know absolutely no one in that industry?
You're flying blind.
Completely blind. You don't know the secret handshake.
Mm-hmm.
You might have all the skills, all the potential, but you don't have the language to get past the gatekeepers.
And the AI knows the handshake.
The AI is the handshake. The source explicitly states that LLMs assist individuals who lack access to informal networks. The AI acts as the mentor you didn't have.
Wow.
You can look at a job description from a big tech company, look at your raw, messy experience from your time as a shift manager, and say, here is how you translate your skills into their language.
That is a profound shift. It really is. It turns the AI from a content generator into a cultural translator.
It bridges the gap between potential and presentation. It doesn't give you skills you don't have, but it makes sure the skills you do have are visible. It levels the playing field so that the person with the best connections doesn't automatically win against the person with the best skills.
It's a decoder ring for corporate speak.
It is. It allows a candidate to say, I have these competencies, and the AI helps them frame it in a way that the corporate algorithm, and just as importantly, the human recruiter who's seen 100 resumes that day, actually understands.
Okay, so we have our toolkit. We're using AI, we're tailoring the resume, we're hacking the application process, we're getting in the door. But once you get the job, where are you actually going?
Oh, yes.
This brings us to my favorite part of the research.
The geometry of careers.
This is a part of the research that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
Because again, like we said at the top, I had the ladder in my head, that one straight line. But the literature identifies 4 distinct shapes, and the latter is just one of them.
And frankly, it's the one that causes the most misery for the most people. But let's look at the others first.
Okay, let's start with number 1, the steady state career.
The steady state is exactly what it sounds like. It is a long-term commitment to a single occupational role or field. You find your thing, and you stick with it.
The source gives the example of a medical professional.
Right, exactly. You go to med school, you become a doctor. 10 years later, what are you? You're a doctor. 20 years later, you're still a doctor. You aren't trying to become the VP of doctoring.
Right.
You're just doing the work. You're deepening your practice.
That is the key distinction, I think. In a corporate mindset, staying in the same role for 10 years is often seen as stagnation.
Oh, for sure.
You hear people say, "Why haven't you been promoted? What's wrong?" But in a steady-state career, the goal isn't upward movement. It is depth. It is mastery.
High specialization.
Exactly. You are refining a craft. This could be a cabinet maker, a tenured professor, a specialized coder, a surgeon. The satisfaction doesn't come from a title change on LinkedIn. It comes from being better at the thing today than you were yesterday. It's about competence, not hierarchy.
It sounds peaceful, in a way.
It does, but also, I could see it feeling a little trapped. If you get bored of being a doctor, you're in real trouble. That's a big ship to turn around.
Oh, it requires a very specific personality type. You have to be okay with a certain level of routine. You have to find the nuance in repetition endlessly fascinating. If you are a novelty seeker, the steady state is a prison.
Right.
But if you're a true craftsperson, it's paradise. It's the chance to go infinitely deep on one subject.
Okay, so that's the steady state. Now let's talk about the villain of our story, or at least the antagonist. The linear career.
The one we all know and maybe don't live. The linear career is the traditional hierarchy. It is defined by new initiatives of growth and responsibility upon accepting new roles.
Up, up, up. Every 2 years, a new title, more direct reports.
But we need to unpack what up really means, because we usually just think up means more money.
Which it usually does.
It usually does, yes. But the source is very specific. Linear progression entails increased responsibility and decision-making authority.
This is the trap, isn't it? This is where it all goes wrong for so many people.
It's the classic Peter principle in action. The idea that you rise to the level of your incompetence.
Right.
Let's say you are a brilliant software engineer. You are an artist. You love code. You dream in Python. You are fantastic at your job. In a linear career path, what is your reward for being good at code?
You get promoted to engineering manager.
And what does an engineering manager do all day?
They sit in meetings, they do budgets, they manage interpersonal conflicts between their direct reports, they do performance reviews, they do zero coding.
Exactly. The linear career path explicitly removes you from the doing and moves you into resource allocation, planning, controlling, and organizing.
So the reward for being good at a thing is that you are no longer allowed to do the thing.
And for many, many people, that is a source of profound unhappiness. They spend their whole lives climbing this ladder. They get to the top only to realize they hate the view.
Because they aren't builders anymore. They're administrators.
Feel disconnected from the very work that actually gave them joy and meaning in the first place.
I feel like half the midlife crises we see are just people realizing they climbed a linear path when they were actually steady-state people at heart.
Precisely. They traded mastery for status, and they feel like they lost their soul in the bargain. They got the title, but they lost the flow.
Okay, let's look at the third shape. This one feels a bit more chaotic. The transitory career.
The transitory career is, it's defined by frequent job changes, where each role differs substantially from the preceding one.
The source uses the example of a fast food worker who then moves to an entry-level bookkeeping role.
Right. Now, on the surface, moving from fast food to bookkeeping sounds like progress, right? It sounds like you're moving up.
Sure, office job, better pay, maybe.
But the definition of transitory implies a lack of what the source calls transferable equity.
What does that mean, transferable equity?
It means you are essentially starting over from zero each time. The skills you learn flipping burgers, while valuable in terms of work ethic and punctuality and customer service, don't necessarily or directly help you balance a ledger in QuickBooks.
So you're jumping from island to island, but you aren't building a bridge between them.
Exactly. It's often driven by immediate need. I need a job. This place is hiring. It lacks a long-term strategy or a connecting thread. You might have a lot of experiences on your resume, but they don't stack. They don't compound on each other.
You are perpetually a beginner.
In many ways, yes. And that can be really difficult because you're not building seniority or expertise that commands a higher salary over time.
It feels like the gig economy has forced a lot of people into transitory careers without them even realizing it.
I think that's a huge factor.
You're an Uber driver, then you're a TaskRabbit, then you're a delivery guy. You're working incredibly hard, but you aren't building a career in the traditional sense of that word.
You are treading water. You are expending enormous energy, but you aren't necessarily moving towards a specific destination. And that brings us to the fourth shape, which I think is the most exciting and relevant one for the modern world.
I agree. The spiral career.
The spiral.
This was the aha moment for me. I read this and I thought, oh, thank God there's a name for what I've been doing.
Right. The spiral career consists of a series of short-term roles that are not identical, so it can look like the transitory path on the surface.
It looks messy.
It looks messy, yes. But there's a crucial difference. In a spiral, the roles contribute to the development of a specific, evolving skill set. You're building something.
So you aren't starting over. You're taking the skills from the last job, putting them in your backpack, and carrying them to the new job, even if the new job looks totally different from the outside.
Exactly. Let's use an example not in the text, but one that fits perfectly. Imagine a journalist. They spend 5 years investigating stories, learning how to ask hard questions, learning how to distill incredibly complex information into a clear, compelling narrative.
Okay. High pressure, lots of writing, tight deadlines.
Then the newspaper industry collapses, as it does. So they take a job in corporate crisis management.
Totally different job. A corporate suit versus an ink-stained wretch.
A totally different title, different world. But are they starting from scratch?
No, not at all.
No. They are using those exact same investigation and communication skills, the ability to find the truth and explain it clearly under pressure, but now they're applying them to a new context. They have spiraled outwards.
They are now a crisis expert with a journalist's eye.
Precisely. And then maybe they spiral again and they become a product manager for a media tech company.
And now they're a product manager who understands crisis and storytelling.
Yes. And they are becoming this unique Venn diagram of skills. They are uniquely qualified to solve problems that a pure product manager couldn't solve, and that a pure journalist couldn't solve. They've created a niche that only they can fill.
That is so empowering, because I think a lot of people, they look at their resume and they see a mess. They see teacher, then sales, then customer success, and they think, I'm a failure, I'm transitory, I can't make up my mind.
But if they can narrate the thread, if they can stand in an interview and say, teaching taught me empathy and how to explain complex ideas, sales taught me persuasion, and customer success is where I combine empathy and persuasion to solve user problems, then they aren't transitory.
They're spiraling.
They are building a portfolio of competencies.
So the difference between a mess and a spiral is the story you tell about it.
The narrative is everything, and the intentionality behind it. A spiral is an intentional widening of your capability. A transitory career is often just things happening to you. A spiral is you gathering tools to build something unique that only you can build.
I love that. It puts the agency back in your hands. It asks, who is the architect?
Exactly.
So, okay, we have the shapes, we have the new AI toolkit, but how do we know which shape fits us? Because I might want to be a creative spiral, but my bank account says, be linear, they pay better and have better health insurance.
And that introduces the central conflict the source material focuses on for the rest of the time. It is the internal compass versus the organizational map.
Or individual needs versus organizational needs.
The great tug of war.
And to understand the individual side, we need to talk about John L. Holland.
We do. Holland is a titan in vocational psychology. His work is foundational. He proposed a framework called Holland's typology. And the basic premise is it's that most people fall into one of 6 personality types.
Okay.
And that career satisfaction is almost entirely dependent on matching your type to your work environment. A good fit means happiness. A bad fit means misery.
This is the IASEC model, right? RIASEC.
Correct. That's the acronym for the 6 types.
Let's run through them really fast. I want the listeners to sort of self-diagnose here. Don't think too hard. Just go with your gut feeling as we describe them.
Okay. First up is R, for realistic. These are the doers.
The doers.
They like working with their hands, with tools, with machinery. They value practical things you can see and touch. Think engineers, mechanics, surgeons, chefs. They want to see the physical result of their work.
If you genuinely enjoy assembling IKEA furniture, you might be a realistic type.
A very good test.
Ah.
Okay. Next is I for investigative.
The thinkers.
Yes, the thinkers. They value logic, solving abstract problems, analyzing data, scientists, researchers, detectives, programmers. They are driven by curiosity and the need to understand why things work the way they do.
Next up, A for artistic.
The creators. This one's pretty self-explanatory. They value self-expression, imagination, and unstructured environments. Writers, designers, actors, musicians, they hate rigid rules and conformity. They want to make something new.
Then we have S for social.
The helpers. They value teaching, healing, and connecting with people. Teachers, counselors, nurses, social workers, their primary reward is the well-being of others. They're motivated by empathy.
Okay, 2 left. E is for enterprising.
The persuaders. They value leadership, status, and influencing others to achieve a goal. Salespeople, politicians, executives, entrepreneurs, they enjoy the game of influence and the pursuit of organizational goals. They like being in charge.
And finally, C for conventional.
The organizers. They value structure, order, rules, and data management. Accountants, archivists, data entry specialists, librarians. They find comfort and satisfaction in precision and following established procedures. They make the trains run on time.
Okay, so here's the rub. What happens if you are a deep artistic type, you crave freedom and expression and making new things, and you end up in a highly conventional job because your parents told you accounting was safe?
You suffer. I mean, it's that simple. It's not just that you are bored, you were psychologically misaligned. The source material emphasizes that environmental factors like value alignment are critical for mental health and long-term success.
It's like a friction burn on your soul every day.
That's a great way to put it. If you are an artistic soul in a conventional box, you will burn out. Not because the work is too hard, but because the work is fundamentally wrong for your personality. It's like trying to write a poem in an Excel spreadsheet.
And this is where the tug of war really comes in, because the organization, the company that's hiring you, they don't really care about your Holland code, do they?
Bluntly, no, not really. The source makes it very clear. Organizations view career development as a functional necessity. Their primary goal is aligning employee capabilities with strategic organizational objectives.
They have a hole in their spreadsheet, and they need to plug it. You are the plug.
You are the plug. They have a machine that prints money, hopefully.
Yep.
That machine has gears. You are a gear. And if they need a conventional, order-loving gear and you are an artistic, chaos-loving gear, they will try to file down your edges to make you fit.
Wow, that is a visceral image, filing down your edges.
But that is what so much of corporate training and performance management often is, isn't it? The source lists the tactics organizations use. Job descriptions, rotations, transfers, promotions. They frame all of these as development opportunities.
Right. Hey, great news. We're rotating you into this internal audit role for 6 months to broaden your horizons.
But really, they just need someone to do the audit because Steve quit last week.
Exactly. They are solving their problem, not developing you in a way that aligns with your soul. Now, to be fair, a good manager, and the source does mention the critical role of management, tries to bridge this gap.
For sure. A good manager sees that you're an enterprising type and tries to give you leadership tasks within your existing role. They try to find the win-win. But ultimately, if the deep organizational need conflicts with the deep individual need, the organization almost always wins.
Until the individual quits.
Right. Which is why companies do this development song and dance at all, to prevent turnover. It's a retention strategy. It's cheaper to keep you happy-ish than to go through the whole process of hiring and training someone new.
Okay, I want to pivot here because we've been talking about this like it's a pure logic puzzle. You find your shape, you find your Holland code, you get the job, you live happily ever after. But we don't live in a vacuum.
No.
We live in a society.
Context is everything. You absolutely cannot plan a career without acknowledging the constraints of reality.
The source has a whole section on social identity and context, and it gets into the heavy stuff: age, gender, race, socioeconomic status.
And these are not just checkboxes on a form. They are gatekeepers. The text explicitly notes that these factors dictate access to career planning itself.
Let's go back to our beautiful spiral career. It sounds great on a podcast to say, I'm going to leave my stable job and retrain in a new field to spiral upwards.
Sounds fantastic.
But that requires a safety net, doesn't it? It requires savings. It requires time.
Exactly. If you are living paycheck to paycheck, if you are the sole provider for a family, if you have student debt, you cannot afford the gap year. You can't afford to take a pay cut to learn a new skill.
You are forced into the transitory path just to survive, or you're locked into a linear path you hate simply for the stability.
The source uses this really heartbreaking phrase. It says that balancing personal and professional demands often leads individuals to adapt, change, or abandon their ideal paths.
Abandon. That's a strong word.
It is. It suggests that many people have a clear vision of who they want to be, what they want to do. Their Holland code is screaming at them,
Yeah.
but the socioeconomic pressure forces them to abandon that path.
Yeah.
They have to fold their dreams into a shape that pays the bills.
We also have to talk about the gender data that's in the research.
Yeah.
And I want to be really careful here. We are just reporting what is in the source material. This is based on academic research, not our personal opinions.
Right. The research identifies some very distinct, statistically significant trends in how men and women tend to approach career decision-making. And again, this is generalized data. These are broad averages, not a rule for every single individual. But the patterns are significant for understanding the workforce.
So what did they find?
The findings consistently indicated that women are statistically more likely to prioritize balancing work with caregiving responsibilities.
Okay.
Their career shape often has to bend and flex around the needs of others. Children, aging parents. The path becomes more fluid, more nonlinear, often more interrupted.
Whereas men.
Men, on average, are more likely to emphasize career advancement and income growth as their primary drivers. The linear path, the ladder.
Now, here's the chicken and egg question. Is that because men naturally love the linear path? Or is it because society expects them to be the primary provider, so they feel pressured to chase that income growth?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The research doesn't take a side, it just presents the data. But you can see how the traditional linear model, the 60-hour work week, the constant travel, the total devotion to the company, was historically built by and for men who had wives at home, managing the entire life part of the work-life equation.
Right. The corporate ladder was designed with the assumption that the climber doesn't have to pick up the kids from soccer practice. It assumes you have a full-time support staff at home.
Exactly. And as the workforce has changed, as dual-income households became the norm, that linear model has started to break under the strain. It doesn't fit anyone anymore, really.
It's an outdated piece of hardware.
It is. Women are burned out trying to fit into a linear model while also shouldering a majority of caregiving. And men are burned out trying to live up to that linear ideal and realizing they're missing their kids' entire childhoods.
The whole system is incompatible with modern humanity. It was built for a different world, a different social structure.
Which leads us perfectly to the final, and perhaps the most disruptive, trend in our research stack. A concept that really started bubbling up around 2023 and is now a major force.
Quiet ambition.
This is the term.
Now, we've all heard of quiet quitting, which is basically, doing the bare minimum so you didn't get fired, phoning it in. Is this the same thing?
No. And the distinction is absolutely vital. Quiet quitting is passive aggression. It's disengagement. It's checking out. Quiet ambition is an active, conscious, strategic choice.
Okay, so how is it defined?
It is defined as a work mindset where individuals intentionally prioritize personal values, mental health, and life goals over organizational advancement or purely financial outcomes.
So it's not that they lack ambition. That's the key.
Not at all. They are just ambitious about different things.
Right. They are ambitious about being a present and engaged father. They are ambitious about their marathon training. They are ambitious about finally writing their novel or mastering a craft.
Exactly. They're willing to work hard and be a great employee from 9 to 5, but they're not willing to take the promotion if it consumes the time and energy they need for their real ambition, which lies outside the office.
It's a direct rejection of the linear career model we were just talking about.
Explicitly, it's looking at the top of that ladder and saying the prize isn't worth the climb. The source references articles from Fortune and WorkLife that describe this as a looming crisis for corporations.
I saw those. There are headlines like, "Quiet ambition could spell trouble for corporate succession plans."
Think about that from a CEO's perspective. Your entire model for continuity is based on a succession plan. You need a new VP of sales in 5 years. You look at your top performers, you tap one on the shoulder, and you say, hey, great news. We see you as a future leader. We want to groom you for leadership.
And the top performer says, "No thanks.
I'm good.
I don't want it."
I don't want the stress. I don't want the travel. I don't want to answer emails at 10 p.m. I don't want your life.
That must be absolutely terrifying for companies. The entire quasi-military structure of a modern corporation relies on the assumption that people want to get promoted. If the troops don't want to become generals, who runs the army?
We are watching that play out in real time. Companies are having to scramble. They're having to redefine what seniority means. Maybe it means more money or more autonomy without management duties. Maybe it means 4-day work weeks as a top-tier perk. The carrot they used to dangle, the corner office, the fancy title, it just doesn't taste good to a growing number of people anymore.
So quiet ambition is basically the workforce, or a significant chunk of it, collectively looking at the system and saying, your ladder is broken, the game is rigged, and we aren't climbing it anymore.
It's a reclamation of agency. It's the individual finally pulling harder on the rope in that tug-of-war with the organization. It's people deciding my life is the main project, and my job is just the funding for that project.
This feels like a massive cultural moment. We are using AI to hack the entry gates. We are realizing our careers can be spirals instead of ladders. And we are looking at the boss's chair and saying, you can keep it. It's all connected.
It is a moment of high chaos, but also high opportunity. A chance to redesign what work means.
So let's bring this all the way back to the listener. We've covered a ton of ground here. We've dismantled the ladder, we've psychoanalyzed ourselves with Holland codes, we've looked at the social and gender data, and we've embraced quiet ambition. If I'm listening to this right now and I'm feeling stuck in my own career, what is the synthesis? What do I do with all this information?
I think the single biggest takeaway is that career development is no longer a passive ride.
Yeah.
You can't just get on the conveyor belt at age 22 and hope it takes you somewhere nice by age 65.
Yeah.
That world is over.
You have to be the architect.
You have to be the architect. You have to consciously design the shape. You have to look at the toolkit, use the AI to articulate your value, to be your own translator. You have to look at the geometry. Are you building an intentional spiral, or are you just drifting in a transitory sea? And most importantly, you have to listen to that internal compass, that Holland code.
And be brutally honest about the cost of ignoring it.
Yes. If you want the linear rewards, the money, the power, the status, you have to accept the linear sacrifices of time and energy. That's a valid choice. But if you have quiet ambition, you have to be willing to walk away from the traditional status game in order to win the personal fulfillment game.
There is no single right answer, but there is a right answer for you.
Exactly. Alignment is the goal. Not success in some abstract 1980s movie sense, but alignment in the specific personal sense.
I want to leave everyone with a final thought, and this builds on that architect idea. I want you to go back to that imaginary napkin from the beginning of our deep dive.
The drawing.
The drawing. I want you to look at your resume, look at your life, look at the last 5 years. If you had to give your career a title right now, is it the ladder I was forced to climb, or is it the spiral I designed?
That's the question, isn't it? Are you the protagonist of your own work life, or are you just a non-player character in the company's movie?
Oh, that hits hard. But that's why we do the deep dive.
Indeed. It's the important stuff.
We've linked all the sources we discussed, John L. Holland's work, the research on gender dynamics, and those fascinating articles on quiet ambition in the show notes. Go read them. They are absolutely worth your time.
Definitely worth the time.
Thank you so much for listening. Stop climbing ladders you hate.
Start spiraling.
We'll see you next time. Keep diving deep.